Hi, everyone. Welcome to the September 2022 Compassion Chat. Holy shnikes, September? Where is this year gone? Kind of like where every other one goes, right? We're delighted to have you this evening. My name is Susan Marshall. I am the author of Mom's Gone Missing, When a Parent's Changing Life Upends Yours, and your host for these Compassion Chats. We meet the fourth Tuesday of every month at 6 p.m. Central right here on Zoom. Nobody's got to get in a car. Nobody's got to go anywhere. We don't have to dress up. We have been privileged throughout the past year and a half to have some incredible guests. Tonight is no different. Before I introduce our special guest, I will remind everyone that we are recording this call so that we can put it in our archives. You can go back and listen to any or all of them. So Terry, heads up, you're going to be in the archives. I am honored, truly, and privileged to introduce our guest this evening is Terry Lynch. Terry spent his professional career as an advocacy expert for people who often don't have a voice of their own, primarily the disabled and the elderly. Terry worked in the state of Wisconsin and also at the national level in Washington, D.C. His work was instrumental in developing what is now the National Disability Rights Network. Amazing. Terry left that work to come back to Wisconsin to take care of his mother as she began to need more support. He also wrote a book that we're going to talk about a little bit later, but I Don't Want Eldercare. We'll talk about that a bit. And then Terry finds himself on the other end of this entire spectrum now, receiving care himself. So we will have lots and lots to talk about this evening. Terry, thank you so very much for joining us. We're all anxious and eager to learn from you this evening.
Well, thanks for inviting me.
Delighted to have you. So you spent your professional career doing advocacy work. What led you to that particular profession?
Well, it began in civil rights. Concern about racial issues. So at first, when I was in Washington, I worked in southern states in advocacy on civil rights issues. And then gradually, I started to get concerned about people with mental illness, and then personally with Alzheimer's and mental and serious mental issues related to aging. So it's kind of a continuum. It's all about causes, and it's all about people not understanding the issues, and a lot of times situations which aren't considered that important, which are,
So Terry, little did you know how important that would become, how much more important that would become over the years. So again, our thanks for your work in doing that. What are some of the most important things you learned as a result of doing that work?
That I learned?
Yes, that you can share with us as caregivers.
Oh, well, sure. Well, that is like, if you just want to focus on the memory issue, the stuff that's happened with so many people, disorientation, memory loss, loss of self, loss of personality, loss of direction, these gigantic problems.
Absolutely. Is that what you began noticing in your mom? That led you to pack up and leave Washington, D.C. and return back to Wisconsin?
It was getting hard. It was getting hard for me in Washington too. So politically, I was in the wrong administration.
Well,
I won't get into politics, okay?
No, I was going to say that's an avenue we're not going to take this evening. We could certainly do that another time.
I say, okay, I've done enough. I got to get out of here. And besides, I love Wisconsin. I had enough background to be able to do consulting work. So I knew it could, but I knew my mom needed me. And it was a good time to be back here. So it's a combination of things that brought me back after quite a while wandering around other places, including 15 years in Washington.
Wow, good for you. And how did your mom say, Terry, please come back? I need your help.
She would never do that.
It's kind of what I would guess. Tell us how that sort of evolved, because I think you moved back with her, right? To keep her in her home.
Hmm.
Tell us about that.
Well, she was my best friend.
Ah,
So people would always say, I had friends at first when I was then at home taking care of her, they come in and say, well, you can't do this forever, Terry. And, you know that you have a life to live yourself. And there were people who loved me, but they didn't understand that I couldn't leave her. She was my buddy. She was my best friend. And I feel like crying right now when I'm talking about it. And so it wasn't like I was doing anything to be great or special or anything like that. It's just I had to be on the front lines. I had the skill set to be able to make a difference for her. And I can talk now. I'm old, so I'm not trying to promote a career. I've been a good public speaker. And that has been a very good way to deliver the stuff that I've had people, to tell people about is, you know, to discuss the experiences I've had and like how common it is to have people misdiagnosed with Alzheimer's and to be in a situation where memory loss is just considered inevitable, not much you can do about it. And so it became a crusade to say, no, why don't we find out if there's stuff we can do? And we're going in the right direction so far.
oh, absolutely. And in fact, you mentioned that you did not believe the diagnosis of your mother with Alzheimer's. You said, no, I don't think that's right. So
No,
tell us a little bit about that.
yeah. The doctor said it's Alzheimer's, and I started to cry. He said, "Oh, don't worry, it'll be much worse for you than it will be for her." And then I started saying something else. He said, "Oh, just a few years." So he told me something that she was going to die of a terrible death, and it would only be a few years, and that would be it. So I thought, let's do a little bit better with this. So I took her to a geriatric, and it's really, really early in the era of aging advocacy, but I came out of the disability rights movement. So I had a foundation with civil rights activities around people who are, have disabilities. And that helped me find a geriatric assessment clinic in Milwaukee. And I took my mom there, and they said, let's check her out. So the first thing they did was interview her, had a conversation with her. And at the end of the conversation, they came out and they said, she doesn't have Alzheimer's disease. I said, how do you know? He said, she's making connections that you'd never hear somebody with Alzheimer's disease make, the way her brain functions. And, regular physician wouldn't know that stuff. Had to be an expert and said, so that's not the kind of, responses we'd expect from somebody who's developing Alzheimer's.
So I have a question directly related to that, Terry. As a caregiver, my parents have both passed, but I know there are many with us tonight who are caregivers. When you have those two diametrically opposed professional opinions, what do you do with that?
Well, I went to a place where people actually knew what they were talking about. So when they told me, I felt more comfortable. But then I had to figure out what to do. And it was involved a combination of, I had to get her off of blood thinners. Get her onto blood thinners so she had small strokes. And so I got involved in that medical side. And
you started to build a team of paid helpers and unpaid helpers, and you had folks in and out of the house to kind of help her
Yeah,
stay comfortably at home.
yeah. I became a full-time caregiver,
Right.
but I was able to enter the program to support people like me, um, and I was able to use resources to pay people to help us out. In addition to this, to the agency help that I would get, I could go out and recruit people, hire them for a few hours here and
So
there. So I
in
actually started like running a little company.
exactly. I was going to say in that regard, you were way ahead of your time.
Way. Yeah.
Yeah. How did you select the people that you trusted to pay? I can't imagine that was an easy or
Yeah.
quick process, knowing who to trust with your mom.
Yeah. Um, well, it would come through recommendations from people who knew other people. They said, this is a really good woman and she's looking for somebody to help. And she's, she's been great. And they talk about other ways. And so then it comes down to, do you want to do this? Yes. And then how do you work with somebody who has serious memory problems? Can you handle it yourself? And you got it. So it would be that kind of thing, to have good credentials and then talk to them about temperamentally how do they do in situations where somebody asks you the same thing over and over and over again within an hour.
I think that is such an important aspect of this. We all know as supporters of loved ones, that can get very tedious very quickly.
Yeah.
Were you kind of the coach of that whole team, helping them understand how to deal with your mom and kind of supporting them as they dealt with the repetitiveness?
But then as people got to know her, they become part of they became my family. And I told one of my best friends, if I had to lose all the rest of you guys to keep our caregivers, he said, yeah, I know, and you'd be doing the right thing too. So
What a
our
wonderful tribute.
caregivers became the heart and soul of our lives along with us.
Yeah. And, it really is wonderful that you had the background and the network that you had
Oh yeah,
really marshal the troops on behalf of your mom.
I was very lucky. She was very lucky. For a very unfortunate person, at least we had that to offer her.
Yeah. And you
Because
wrote a book, Terry. The title of your book is But I Don't Want Eldercare, helping your parents stay as strong as they can, as long as they can.
right,
What was your mission in putting that book together?
just that. It was to educate, help to educate society, not egotistically, but coming from, oh my God, they don't understand that just a blood test for a parent could change what's happening altogether. Little steps. Just don't assume something. Let's double check it. I could do if I wasn't already having a lot of problems with my brain right now, I could be more specific. But it's the whole thing about these misconceptions about serious memory problems being kind of common in old age, and there's not much we can do about it. And what I learned is there may be a whole lot you can do about a lot of stuff you don't understand. And it starts with some fundamentals like meds, get the medications right. Medications are a huge problem in the area of disability and memory. So, like I had a friend whose mom was in a nursing home after being very, very active on her own, and she got hurt, went to the hospital, had surgery, went to the nursing home, and they were saying she's not able to, she's not in a position, a condition to ever be out on her own again. And I said, so take her to your doctor and have him check out her meds. He did that, and a month later, she was back in her apartment. So have to be hundreds of thousands of people, if not millions. And that's why it became a crusade for me, because
And we're glad that it did. So you said take her to her physician. As you say, as a caregiver, would I start with the family physician, a primary care physician, a specialist, or a pharmacist?
Or what?
Or a pharmacist, right? Where would I start if I suspected that there were more meds that were necessary going on?
One of the things I do is talk to the pharmacy and ask what the, first of all, you'd look up the stuff and take a look at what the side effects are. Things you just say, if we change these meds, what's going to happen? Is there a substitute we can take? And quite a bit of the time that has something to do with it. Sorry, I could do a better answer, but this is as good as my.
Oh, no, this is fine. I have actually 8 rules that you had presented in the second chapter of your book. And I'm intrigued to ask you about some of them. I will say, though, as an author myself, when somebody asks you, you wrote this, what did you mean? I don't know, give me a minute. So no pressure. But there are some that I'm really kind of intrigued by. The very first one you wrote, old is never an acceptable explanation.
Right.
What does that mean?
Because there's all sorts of other stuff that could be happening, and you could be old and meds are doing it, or you're having strokes that can be managed. Like my mom was having small strokes. You put her on blood thinners, boom, her memory loss didn't keep going. So it's things like that. If you double check what's happening with the person, that people a lot of times assume is normal for old people, and don't take it for granted that they're right, you can make a big difference. And then there's ways to help people manage what's going on with them that we don't know about either. So you want to make sure you get good support from caregiving organizations that know what they're doing.
Well, and it occurs to me, Terry, you mentioned your mom was your best friend.
Mhm.
That connection gives you insight that physicians certainly would not have,
No.
right? And you mentioned when we spoke yesterday about the rushed nature of so much of healthcare. Now, that I'm sure adds complications in all of this, right? Who will take the time to listen and to learn and truly kind of from a human standpoint, understand what's going on?
Yeah. So one of the things, one of the parts of my crusade has always been to get people to say, stop, how do we know this? Don't just assume it's because the person's a certain age and, that we can't just jump to conclusions.
And I think that is an important question for all of us caregivers to keep in mind. How do we know this? Or how do you know this? What evidence, perhaps, can we point to that you can say, well, you know what, maybe there's something else? Would you say that that's a good approach?
Mm-hmm. And quite a bit of time it's medications.
Yeah, I'm sure. So your fourth rule, and I'm not going to read all of them, but your fourth
We'll
rule,
be grateful.
okay. The fourth rule says loss of interest in life is not normal at any age. Can you say more about that? Is that the loss of interest, does that lead you to suspect, I don't know if it's mental decline, perhaps depression? What are some of the thoughts there?
Sorry, what's going on with my own brain right now makes it hard for me to remember exactly what.
Okay. But it's just that when somebody loses
No,
interest.
what they're really saying is depression. It's a mental health issue. It's not normal just to have it happen. So you got to double check to see whether something's going on in the area of medications or some sort of emotional problem that could be behind this whole thing.
Absolutely. And that's kind of the consistent theme here, right? Don't make an assumption. Ask the next question. Yeah.
And you got to know people who are going to be curious about it and not just say, oh, we know what it is. Don't accept that. Find someone who will say, you're right, let's hunt this down.
That's a huge concern, I think, for caregivers. And I can, in the back of my mind, hear people that I've spoken with over the years. I don't have time to be curious. I'm busy. I got this to do and this to do and this to do. And you're saying, nope, time out, not good enough.
Well, one of the things, if you do it, it actually can make your life easier ultimately. Because you go ahead and find some things you wouldn't have found, all of a sudden, caregiving demands going to get a lot easier. So it might be worth an upfront investment of time and effort.
That is pure gold wisdom right there. Yes,
Yeah, hard one.
absolutely. And then the last one I want to ask you briefly about is rule number 6, preoccupation with safety can be risky.
Mhm. Yeah, you got to help people keep moving. And like with my mom, I always wanted her to be able to walk on her own if she could, and use her own walker and keep moving. And just to say, no, you got to stay there. We want you to not be walking much anymore because it's too risky. You got to balance risk against the inevitable destruction that's going to happen if people don't get up and walk. That's tricky. But so one of the things is trying to get as much therapeutic help as possible under medical care. And so preoccupation with keeping mobilizing somebody and keeping strong should be their good diet, exercise, making sure you're managing health issues, you focus on that, and don't think about it's inevitable if these things are going to happen, because there may be a lot of things you can stop or change. And that's what I learned.
I think that is so very important. And it sounds too like that helped you maintain an attitude of curiosity and support and action rather than, oh, this is terrible. And oh my goodness, I don't know what to do, which drags everybody down.
Yeah. Yeah, you start to get more of a sense of you get more control over things. Not that you're going to be controlled, you can't control, you know what I mean? But yeah, there's a lot we can do that we don't know. Like
This might be
a guy came to me once in a coffee shop and he said, so my mom's in a coffee shop. And she went to the hospital, got hurt. She'd been living in her own apartment. Now she's in a nursing home and too weak to do anything. And they think, no, she just can't go home. And I said, did I ever tell you the story?
no.
No, okay. So I said, so my suggestion is take her to your doctor, have her check out her meds. He took her off 3 medications. She was home 3 weeks later. And millions of people don't know this. There's thousands of lives ruined just because of these quote unquote little mistakes or lack of information. So that's why it became my crusade. Because just know a few things like this, having more people know this and say that, there's more lives you can save, including the caregiver's life, by the way.
Which is why you continue to be on a crusade joining us this evening. Thank you. You continue, Terry, to teach us to save lives and to advocate people to keep healthy, keep moving, and stay curious.
Yeah.
Stay curious.
Yeah. Thank you. You're a very good interviewer.
Oh, I love chatting with people, particularly people like you, Terry, who have seen so much, who have done so much.
Too much.
And now, kind of in an ironic twist of fate, you are on the receiving end of the things you advocated for. What does that feel like?
Bad.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, ironic that I could keep a lot of people out of nursing homes, get them out of nursing homes, but I can't do it for myself. But then there's a lot of good people helping me here. So, the stuff I've learned, I like to work with them on it and make sure they know I appreciate them. And the problem isn't the people, it's the environment. You know, you're not home anymore. You're in an institution. So trying to be able to continue to keep your spirits up is a struggle. And so,
And, you know, interesting, Terry, that you used the word institution. Most of us try to avoid that word, right? Because we like to think we're making it home. And I'm sure there's intention to help do that. And yet you know better.
yeah,
But I love that you said that you appreciate them and you let them know that. I think everyone who manages to help us help ourselves. I think we don't often enough thank them for the work that they do and what it means to us.
people in nursing homes who really helped me are just fabulous. It's just so wonderful to have this advocacy this far along in my life and having people still there with me, not just giving up on me.
Well, that's not going to happen. I can guarantee you that. What makes you happiest as you think about, you know, this weird, things have come full circle for you, the professional work, the 10 years with your mom, the book, and now it's all coming right back to you in the form of blessings of people helping you now deal with a very difficult chapter.
Well, that's, you know, like I'm so fortunate to have such great buddies looking out for me. So I just realized my life would be way different without my buddies and people doing stuff, going out of the way for me. And it's part of my crusade to try to get other people with people like that in their lives to help them.
Absolutely. What's your best? I'm going to open it up here for questions and stories and comments from others. I know several of your buddies are on this call this evening.
Cut them off.
Okay, see, the sass is
I
still
don't
there.
want to hear from them.
I love the sass. That continues. What's your best bit of advice, Terry, for caregivers who are with us now and who will see this chat over the years?
Become very knowledgeable, work as hard as you can to do a good job, but go all of your way to take care of yourselves too. Don't just give up on yourself. You gotta find ways to get enough rest, exercise, diet. And so if there are people in your life who can help you do that, don't say no. One of the things I always told people, someone said they do that, and you said, no, I'm not gonna, I don't need that. You say, you do need it, why did you lie to them? And so
I know that's a hard one.
yeah, it is. But you're not pathetic if you tell somebody, I feel pathetic, I need your help. Because that person will say, thanks for telling me that. It gives me more latitude to do some stuff. And there are a lot of great people out there.
That's a really, really important point. And I know I will say, just as a caregiver, there were too many times I said, nope, I got this. Nope, I'm good. And realized only later, and sometimes too late, that that was a denial of
Right.
that person's care.
Yeah. And people say, I really wanted to do this.
Right.
You're not going to say, no, no, you don't really want to. You're a fool if you're doing that.
I don't think we say those words, but by saying, no, I got this, we're essentially saying that.
Mm-hmm.
And what I'm hearing you say is, don't do that.
No, no, you fool. But it takes a while to get into that.
So it takes time, it takes experience, it takes years, all of those combined.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if I'm answering your question now. So
Absolutely, you are. And you know what? Just by virtue of being who you are, Terry, and how you are, I know is a tremendous inspiration to me personally, and I'm sure to many others who have known you over the years. And the grace really with which you're handling your situation now is a tribute in my mind to the work that you've done all of these years to
Well,
help
thank you.
others understand.
Thank you. Well, there are a lot of great people out here helping us.
All right, I am going to invite anyone on the call who has a question for
I'm going
Terry.
to screen them.
Now, you know what? We're live, man. It's just, we get what we get.
Okay.
You can say, I'm not answering that. It's totally up to you.
Now, we've used
But-
up enough time as it is now, okay?
That's funny. Anyone who has a question or a story, perhaps a thank you, perhaps an encouragement, anything you would like to share with Terry? See, Terry, I think you made them all nervous.
Nobody's there.
Yeah, maybe let me ask this, for those of you who have known Terry and know of his work, what's the greatest impact he has had on you and your thinking about aging, disability, cognitive decline, those kinds of things?
There must be a communications breakdown somewhere.
I think it's shyness.
No, there's just so many things. So I don't know where to start, quite honestly. But Terry, am I allowed to speak?
Yes.
Someone, it makes you feel good to know somebody's there. Big relief, because the people I'm talking about, they're not shy, so I figured no one's listening to this. Go ahead, yes, please.
Well, one of the things, and actually my family has thanked me for sharing this advice. When our mom had a stroke unexpectedly and was in the hospital for some time, you had said, don't leave anyone alone in the hospital. Don't leave an older person alone in the hospital, especially until they're calling that person by name. And so we just never left. We took shifts, and I'm fortunate I have a big family, so we were able to find a way to make that work. I don't know how other people do it, but we pulled that off. But that was great advice. I'm still thanked for passing that along to my family members. Got our mom up and going again, and living back in her own place with her husband. But then interestingly, her husband's cognitive impairment became worse during that time, because he went a month without my mom, who had been his bedrock and
Oh,
really his other half, right? So literally, and he has anxiety anyway, so that just put him over the edge. So now we care for both of them, and it's very interesting. So I apply everything you taught me every day in that environment, because we have a 24-hour caregiving gig going at my parents' house, and it's a lot to hold together. But I'll just say one more thing, and that is, you once said, in terms of like getting medical care or follow-up or advice, or when to get intervention or more another opinion, think about that person as if they were your 16-year-old child. What would you do for them? Do that for that person. So that really stuck with me throughout the years too. So thank you, Terry.
you're welcome. I'm glad to hear it. Sorry about that terrible experience, though.
That is something that I had not heard, but it's wonderful. What if this were your 16-year-old child? And as we care for aging parents, they do regress in many ways back to a more childlike existence. So that's a wonderful bit of advice. I had not heard that, and I will certainly remember it. So thank you for sharing that. And Terry, thank you for teaching that.
If I taught it, I'm delighted.
Terry would organize what he called the Great American Porch Parties. And people would come, and his mother would be there. And I just remember how happy she was, and learning that it's the moment, not necessarily do they remember it tomorrow, but the joy of the moment that matters.
Yeah, that stuck with her too. Even people with memory loss have, something that's that uplifting. It stays. So Yeah,
And they were great parties.
yeah. There may have even been some alcohol involved now and then.
What did happen to that bottle of bourbon?
Somebody must have taken it.
Uh-oh.
You know what is so much fun about this kind of sharing is one of the things we try, the reason we started these compassion chats is to bring this kind of humanity to each other. We're going to feel inadequate, we're going to struggle, we're going to make mistakes, but gosh darn it, it's really important to be here for each other and to share, Roy, as you said, the parties, the stories. All we have is the moment right now. And so, gosh, here we are.
Yeah, and one of the things that is important for people to know the impact they have. Just a little help can mean an immense amount to a person under great stress in very serious situations. It can mean way more than it might seem to make a difference. So I still feel a lot of gratitude. A lot of great people out there.
Absolutely. Any other stories, learnings, frustrations, perhaps Terry can help you understand or perhaps work through? I know as a caregiver, we hear many. One of them, maybe Terry, I will ask you, did you ever feel impatient with the system, with providers, sometimes with your mom?
Yeah. Yeah, so you have to, with my mom, I just had to remember not to let her know how stressful this was for me, because that would make her feel even worse about she was my buddy, and she was not selfish, she was not self-centered. So she was very aware of the help she was getting. I had to go out of my way to make sure she knew that now and then I might do something and make her think I didn't want to do it. And so I'd sit down with her every night and hug her and tell her, every time I'm with you, every day I'm with you is precious. And don't ever think I'm doing something I don't want to, because you would do it for me. And she'd say something like, well, I may have to go to nursing home. I said, you mean we might have to go to nursing home? And that's when we'd have our great laughs. So I don't know whether I'm answering anything that we wanted to talk about, but it's a reminiscence.
Absolutely. And those are the things that, again, bring the humanity to all of this. There are things we remember maybe differently than they actually happened, but I loved what you said, Terry, about hugging her and telling her every day that you were there because you wanted to be there.
It's good for our friends of caregivers to, be told that too, how important they are to us. Because it's really like building an alliance.
Well, and so from where you sit now, Terry, you're not the sort of the general contractor anymore, but I imagine you do have some influence about the kinds of things that you experience and the ways you interact with your caregiver group. I mean, you can say no, thank you, right? Yeah, I know you just told us that's a bad idea, but I guess what I'm saying is, I'm going back to your first rule, old is not, what is it? Old is not an acceptable explanation. You're refusing to be treated as old, right?
Yeah, you're still a person.
Yeah, and you still have that sass factor, so that's cool.
And most of the people who help me here focus on the person. Very nice, very thoughtful and warm. Not always that case, so I'm lucky to be here.
Wonderful. Last call. Anybody have a story, have a memory, have something that you want to tell Terry, since we're all here with him? Well, I will summarize, Terry, and just say thank you from a former caregiver, from someone who appreciates more than I could ever adequately express all of the work you've done and the investments you've made in your life to help others who can't always help themselves.
Thank you very much.
You continue to teach,
I
you
hope.
continue to share, and we have you now for, what did we decide? Was it prosperity, posterity?
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks,
We will-
everybody. Whoever may be there.
Yes, and this will go on SusanAMarshall.com website. We will have it up in a couple of weeks, certainly at the latest. So you can go back and see your friend Terry anytime you want to see him again. So Terry, again, thank you. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
Good night, everyone.